Could West Virginia lose Neal Brown, its second coach in a row, to a lower level program slash mid major slash group of five? Well, he's been named as a top candidate somewhere else. Let's talk about that on this episode of Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome in. This is Locked On West Virginia. I'm your host, Mountaineer Paul. Happy Monday to you. Craziness already this week. Episodes brought to you by FanDuel, guys. You can get to start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. Continue coming by, being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. So here we go. Thank you to Brad from Voice of Morgantown to pointing this out to me from the Daily Hampshire Gazette. He sent me a link to this, and he's also got an article I highly suggest going to check out. It echoes kind of what this article here says, and I'm going to share the screen. I don't normally do that. For those of you listening on podcast, I'm going to be reading from an article on the Daily Hampshire Gazette about UMass. Neal Brown's obvious, Kentucky and UMass, the two places he's played and coached at. So I don't know if it's going to make me register. We'll see. UMass football Minutemen's players reacted Don Brown's firing, plus potential replacements. No relation to Neal Brown, Don Brown. So I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I'll read the first part of the article, then I'll read the part about Neal Brown. In Monday's press release issued by UMass Athletics regarding the firing of Minuteman head coach Don Brown, director of athletics Ryan Bramford offered some praise to the program's now former head coach. Upon Brown's return in 2021, we shared a common goal to help UMass's football attain conference membership, something that was realized last spring. Largely due to his renowned coaching reputation, Don legitimized our FBS program, and Massachusetts football has taken positive steps forward since his return. We are structurally positioned to accomplish our competitive goals as we move into a new league and new college athletics landscape in 2025. It's abundantly clear Bamford recognizes and understands that Brown played a large role in helping UMass team achieve one of its biggest goals, getting the Minutemen into a conference, which they did back in the spring when they announced their move to the MAC. Bamford, who's the AD in the Amherst since 2015, noted that because of Brown's track record, two-time Broyles Award-winning finalist at Michigan, and his assistance in progressing the UMass football program, the team is now in position to compete at a high level in the MAC next season. They did elevate somebody to they elevated somebody to the head coaching spot. I believe it's the O coordinator, possibly. So down here where it says early candidates to replace Brown, Bamford said the school would like to hire Brown's replacement as soon as possible. Several names have been thrown around in rumors early on in the coaching search, and many of them follow a similar trend. Young FCS head coaches with ties to the New England area. Here are a few that stand out. Current New Hampshire head coach Ricky Santos has done a solid job with the Wildcats, is now 28-18. The absolute best case scenario, a home run hire will be Liam Cohen, who is the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. We know that's not going to happen. Long shot, but the Rhode Island native played quarterback at UMass for 4 seasons, starting in all of them, and was the Minutemen's quarterbacks coach in 14 and 15. When in Amherst, Cohen was roommates with former UMass and NFL star Victor Cruz. That's pretty cool. Another top choice is Neal Brown, the current head coach at West Virginia, where he has gone 36-34 and won 2 bowl games since taking over in 2019. Brown played wide receiver at UMass in the early 2000s before joining the Minuteman staff as a tight ends coach. UMass Chancellor Javier Reyes crossed paths and was very involved with Neal Brown at West Virginia. And the Paul Gorham Auditorium inside of the Martin Jacobson Football Performance Center was donated by Neal Brown and his wife, Brooke. Wow. So, obviously, huge ties to this university. There's no doubt that Neal would have probably a little bit more of an affinity for UMass. Nobody saw Dana leaving to go to Houston either, but he did. At the end of the day, if something's not working, it's not working. And a lot of times the path of least resistance is the best one, right? So there are ways to look at this as far as what's logical, what can we hope for, what's likely to happen, and all these scenarios are the same. Like, first of all, Neal Brown's not going to walk away from this contract. But I would imagine that if he would walk away just somehow, this would be the best case scenario. It gets him out of the buyout. He gets to go straight to another job. At least I think they get out of the buyout. I don't know that for sure, but it would be possibly something that they could work on, maybe lowering the buyout or maybe lengthening it over some years, something like that. Or perhaps they just say, look, this is what's best for both of us. We'll just pay the buyout, whatever. And UMass gets him on the cheap, right? Probably $1 million a year, $2 million at the most. They're going to the MAC. I don't think the MAC coaches at the top probably make, $1.5, $2 million at the most. But I don't know how likely it is. I don't. But the fact that he's being mentioned is something, and I have a source very close to the UMass program that I'm in contact with. So I can't say more than that, but if you've watched my show lately, just know that I am in contact with that person. You don't have to go back far to look at any basketball or football shows that I've done to see that I have somebody that's pretty close to that situation. And I did reach out, and I have gotten some preliminary stuff back on this. And there's definite interest, and the prevailing thought is they're going to try. So just know that the other end is very interesting, right? They are, I would say, probably he's their number one choice because in reality, it looks like he's probably about to lose the West Virginia job from a lot of different aspects, right? And the Tampa Bay kid, the guy with Cohen at Tampa is, who's going to leave an OC job in the NFL for mid-major coaching job? It's just not likely. So Alabama would be lucky to get that, So I got to say this, man, Neal and his wife have donated to this place. They're obviously enriched in the fabric of that university. Neal played there. All the things that he isn't at West Virginia, that he's tried to enrich himself in the culture of West Virginia and all that he's done. That's one of his most, in my opinion, maybe his best quality is how much he's tried to fit in with West Virginians and be a part of us. Not hard being from Kentucky, obviously, but it's not like he hasn't tried to do it. And I'm sure if he does leave, after we'll look back on it and say, man, there's probably going to be a lot of things we'll miss about Neal as far as how he's handled himself and conducted himself as a man. Outside of this last couple of months in press conferences, he's not had a blemish, right? He's had coaching stuff, but I got to say too, today's press conference was way better. I felt like he handled it much better than he has. I don't know if it's maybe the pressure's off now because there's nothing out there, but I don't know. There is a 0.7% chance, according to Mike Casaza, that West Virginia makes the Big 12 title game. It requires Colorado losing twice and Kansas State and Iowa State losing once more, I believe. Something along those lines. So it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Wouldn't that be crazy? So somebody in the chat asking about Jordan Leslie. I want to say this, guys. Nobody knows anything, right? But I've had a few people reach out to me and say that the situation isn't all that it came out to be that day. And I don't know one way or the other what's true and what isn't. But I just want to say, as somebody who's done time and as somebody who, and I've been honest with you guys for years now on this channel, if you're new, I'm a person in recovery for 5 years, and I have done time. So I say that all the time, and I don't mean to always bring it up, but um, I just say that to say that I have also been jailed for something I didn't do before one time. But I was too scared and didn't know how to fight back. Jordan Leslie has money, at least, that he can fight with, but stigmas, the thing, let's. I don't know whether he did this or he didn't, but I'm just saying on both sides of the fence. If he did do it, then obviously he's getting what he deserves. But if he didn't, he's still gonna be punished like he did it. It's just the stigma that goes along with being a perceived woman beater, right? And a lot of the details that have come out around that makes it sound like he harmed his wife, and the charges say something similar to that because it was an assault type or battery. That's what it was. So I don't know, but I've had 2 people reach out to me saying, "Hey, look, I know an officer that was out there that night," or "Hey, look, I'm close to the family and everything's not as it seems. Jordan's taking the fall." Take that for what you will. I'm not saying it's for sure 100% true, but anyway. So I found this to be interesting. Like I said, thanks to Brad for pointing this out. We're some more in town. He's always on top of these articles, man. He gets them before most people do. I know he gets a lot of criticism, but man, he is on top of things when it comes to especially Neal Brown. So I just think this would be. I think this would be a good move for Neal. I think he would do really well at UMass. Low pressure situation. He would excel as a big fish in a small pond. His what's the best way to put this? His profile has risen nationally. So he would be more marketable for that university, and he would probably do something like he did at Troy there. I honestly believe if Neal Brown gets a shot somewhere else, he's learned so much. I do think that he would do well somewhere else with the staff that maybe he can tailor to what he knows not to do now, because like you're kind of married to your staff after you get them for the most part, right? I mean, you got to try to make things work rather than just fire people all the time. And I think partially the problem with Neal's time here is the staff. I don't think that the way the safeties are playing are Neal Brown's fault. I don't. I'm not sitting here making excuses for Neal Brown. Don't get that confused. I'm just saying, like, there are other coaches on the staff too, and I think we need to remember that. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, let's talk about it. Ren Baker is under attack. The Wolfpack is coming at him. This is Locked On West Virginia. Stick around. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, guys. That's right. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime. That's why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, fans who are in first in the parking lot and last to leave. We see you. You know what else gives me a bit of fan fuel this week? The moment when I found out Neal Brown was a candidate for the UMass Minutemen job. Pretty cool. Also, how about some of the plays that Garrett made this week? Looking back at some of those plays in the first half, very, very good. He was so good in that first half. Too bad it didn't last all 4 quarters. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy, man. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate, ironing, or jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your favorite fan fuel, guys? Whatever it is, make sure it's done with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com and shipped nationwide. All right, guys, we are back. It's Locked On West Virginia. Thank you so much for joining the show. All righty, so I saw something earlier and I wanted to report on it. So let me get to it here. So let me see if this is it here. I thought I was following them. Let's see. Let me get here. I thought I had this pulled up, guys. My apologies. Well, I thought I had it pulled up. I'll find it here in just a second. So the Wolfpack is coming after Ren Baker, and amongst others. And they wrote a thing today, and I wanted to check it out. Unfortunately, I'm don't. There it is. Sorry about that, guys. Let me share the screen with you once more here. This is on X. So this is the Wolfpack. It's a official kind of West Virginia boosters dedicated to firing Neal Brown. They've got the firenealbrown.org thing going on. They tried to fly the plane over the stadium. They've erected the billboards, which were countered, and then they've got Neal Brown toilet paper. They've got it all. And today they wrote a thing here. This is from 5 hours ago. Greetings, Wolves. After this week's embarrassing loss, we are asking for your help to put more pressure on WVU athletic department. The Wolfpack tried to update our billboards and I can't read that because of the moon, extend our contract, but Lamar denied it, citing legal reasons. Perhaps those same people who blocked I can't read this because of that moon in the way. Who blocked the billboards mysteriously from flying the planes from flying mysteriously last month on game day. For those of you listening on podcast, on this image, there's a moon, and the way the text is, it's orange, and it just gets it's hard to read it without zooming in. I can't zoom in right now. The athletic department is more concerned about billboards and making them look bad than the embarrassing football product they continue to put on national television week after week. They claim we do not have the money to fire Neal Brown or his buyout. It's the cheapest in the Big 12 at $9.2 million compared to the average of $17.3 million. Still, Ren Baker won't even inquire to donors about raising the money. We are still developing a plan to bring our message to a broader national audience. We will update you when our plan is in motion. In the meantime, if you'd like to donate to the cause, we will gladly continue to put it towards the termination of firing Neal Brown. All proceeds will be used to put pressure on the athletic department to make a change in the leadership at WVU football. In the event of our pressure is not needed, Coach Brown is fired. All remaining funds will be donated to WVU Children's Hospital. If you do not feel comfortable giving to us, we understand that and ask that you call the athletic department, MAC, or CRT to voice your frustrations. Your contributions to them should give you a voice to be heard, and if they won't listen, maybe you choose to move the money to another sport until Neal Brown is fired. Do not let them take your money while they let WVU football fade into irrelevancy. Please forward this message to any Mountaineers who are tired of being embarrassed. Wolfpack. P.S. Under Neal Brown, 0 weeks ranked, no wins against teams in the top 25 that finish in the top 25, and losing record against FBS teams, 6 wins against teams with a winning record in 6 years. That is a message from the Wolfpack, and I kind of got out of that was I told you guys that Ren Baker was going to start. This is going to start to rub off on him, and then I told you that yesterday that I had somebody reach out to me and said he's kind of at a breaking point with all this. It's just because of things like this, and right here it is again. Ren Baker is being criticized for not even inquiring to donors about this buyout situation, and if it can be done, without university help or whatever. It's funny that somebody in the comments said NWO Wolfpack. That's what it makes me think of. If you watch WCW in the late 90s, the NWO, the Red and Black Wolfpack. Mark Thomas said, looks like they still thought it was Halloween. That's funny, Mark. Yeah, the graphic wasn't the best. They have done a pretty good job of being heard. Pat McAfee has, talked about things they've done Other people have, larger accounts have made note of what they've done. So their goal has been listened and heard, right? So I think, is it fair? I don't know if it's fair or not because the season's not over. I do know from my conversations with people in that organization and talking to other people that know about them, there are donors involved. Now, how big are the donors? I don't know. But the prevailing thought is there's at least one pretty medium-sized donor there. Uh, so I think, they're saying, hey, look, why haven't we been approached as donors about this buyout? At least approached about it. If it's because how everybody makes it seem, right? And tell me if I'm wrong. Has anybody said that Neal Brown is not being fired because they believe in the future? Has anybody said Neal Brown is not being fired because there is hope, or next year's team is going to be great, or this recruiting class is going to be amazing, we can't lose it, or this staff is too good to let go, or we've got a quarterback in the future? No. The only thing you hear, the only excuse, and this comes from talking heads, this comes from me, this comes from Tony Caridi, through three guys, anybody you want to hear it from, the reason Neal Brown hasn't been fired, if it is brought up, is money. It's the reason it's being thrown out there. Ren Baker even wrote a letter a couple weeks ago to us detailing the events that have led to this and why, and exactly what's going on here monetarily for us not to be able to make a change. So it is cut and dry a money issue. And so I think donors are looking around saying, hey, nobody's asked us about this. Like, obviously, they would rather be donating to a fund for Brown to be fired than campaigning for it. Fair or not. So I just wanted to bring that up because I told you guys yesterday or day before yesterday that I think that Ren is going, and I had no inside knowledge on this part. It was just a gut feeling. I felt like, people are eventually going to get frustrated with calling for Neal's job. And look, it's not the end of the season yet. It's only going to ratchet up from here. And if they win the last two games, maybe that relieves enough pressure to keep him. I don't know. But as of yesterday, like I said, if you watched yesterday's show, I had a text come through at 1 o'clock in the afternoon that told me that Ren Baker was at a breaking point, and I do believe that is the case. Coos makes a great point in the comments. Having Gee as a lame duck president doesn't help either. It's a great point. He's due to retire in 25. They don't know who's going to come next, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty with that. Certainly, Gordon Gee hasn't been great for the university. I think he's probably been one of the worst presidents in the history of the university. He wasn't great at any of the places he'd been, really. I mean, you go back to Ohio State, they had scandal after scandal. I think he was there during the Tressel scandals or Urban Meyer. I don't remember now, but let me get a drink. So, I wanted to do a head coaching list, but I don't know if I'm going to have time to this week. I'm going to try. I've got a lot of stuff set up. I'm trying to get my UMass connection to come on and talk about this possibility as well, but I don't think he's going to because obviously it was just not something that it's just could get some. It could mess some things up. So I have a UCF thing tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a preview for the game. We'll be talking about Neal Brown and that, and just kind of, that situation as a whole. Yeah, but Ohio State wins under anybody. It doesn't really matter who it is. Like I feel like it's just Ohio State, not the president. But yeah, listen, keep chopping. Somebody in the comments said go Pat McAfee, go full prime. I would 1,000, 10,000, 100,000% sign off on Pat McAfee. I would. People think I'm crazy, but I guarantee you we would win. I guarantee you because Pat McAfee would just hire the staff. He would hire the best staff. He would hire. It's just like he with Dion. He hired a bunch of NFL coaches to surround him. And then you're going to tell me that Pat McAfee wouldn't be able to out recruit everybody? It's not going to happen. And this is like a pitch. This is like a pie in the sky. Never would happen. But I personally believe that Pat McAfee, all you have to do is just put Pat McAfee in the head of this, and he would hire the best coaches, and that's that. I mean, he's surrounded by him on his show anyways, for the most part. But anyway, it's not going to happen. So it's not going to, So obviously it's dream world talk. I'm not saying it's not, but a part of that's what being a fan is. This is a fan show. So if you want, sometimes we talk about things that aren't realistic. The Neal Brown firing may not be realistic. Like there's plenty of things. So it's not, we come here to have fun. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, I want to talk a little bit more about the Neal Brown situation before we head off here. Stick around. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. That's only if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything to need to place live bets all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place your bets. Go to FanDuel.com to get started today. And make sure that you win that bet to get 150 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. And this episode is also brought to you by Game Time, guys. That's right, it's Game Time. Curation deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. Don't forget about the super deal known as Game Time Picks, guys. It makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Don't forget to toggle the feature that shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view in your seat in the app before you buy. You can look around 360 degrees. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a lower price, making your purchase covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but to create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off, and then download the Game Time app and ask yourself this, guys. What time is it? It's game time. We're back. And so I would love to know in the comments, guys, let me know. How do you feel about this situation? Do you think it's not going to happen? We all thought that Dana Holgorsen wouldn't leave for a lower level job either. Sure, they probably promised him or had a good idea they were going to be in the Big 12 in a couple of years anyway. UMass not in that same position, right? But I do think for Neal, it would be a big change. It would be a situation where he could, for lack of a better term, start over, right? I think that's needed in this case. It would be good for both. You're bringing back an alumni that people want. He would probably have some sway with donors immediately. And it sounds like he's the number 2 choice. Obviously the OC for the Bucks sounds like the number 1 choice, and why wouldn't he be? Heck, we would be great to hire him. He's a great OC. And so and look, I think Neal would be great for this too, because UMass is moving into the Mid-American Conference. And what a great conference. It really is. I followed Marshall for years when I was young, and because I live in the Huntington area, when they were in the MAC. And it was a fun conference because when I lived in the Huntington area, I used to go to games a lot. And I had so much fun. I got to see Josh Cribbs. I got to see Julian Edelman. I got to see Ben Roethlisberger, Byron Leftwich, Randy Moss, Chad Pennington, Doug Chapman. Like, there were so many awesome NFL players that came through during that time. And I just have fond memories of the Mid-American Conference. And Marshall was really good back then. So it was fun to go to their games. I was a kid, obviously. I grew into being a West Virginia fan and a Marshall hater later down the line. But when you're not even a teenager yet, you don't quite have those thoughts yet. My dad was a West Virginia Mountaineers fan, but we lived in a lot. And there are West Virginia people like this. They just want somebody in the state to do well. My dad was more along those lines. While Marshall was doing good, he would root for Marshall sometimes, but he was more of a Mountaineer. Obviously, that's what I was raised to be. Anyway, so yeah, those were great times. The MAC's a great conference, and I think that UMass is doing good by moving into that. So I think Neal will be good for that. He's got experience in the Sun Belt. I think you can say the MAC would be just a notch down from that. Let me look who they got in their conference now, though, just to kind of get a feel for it, because it's not the same teams it used to be. Mid-American Conference teams. Okay, so the Mid-American Conference has Akron, Ball State, Bowling Green, Buffalo, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Northern Illinois, Ohio, Toledo, and Western Michigan. Well, those are all the same teams pretty much, without Marshall and a couple others. UMass will join in 2025, and the league may add another team to make 14 members. The MAC is a Division I conference in the National NCAA. Most of its members are in Ohio and Michigan, with some in Illinois, Indiana, and New York. They eliminated the East and Western divisions for the 24 to 26 seasons. Interesting. So there's no East and West anymore with that. I remember Western Michigan always used to be really tough for Marshall. Who else used to be tough for Marshall? Ohio, the who West Virginia plays next year. And I can't. We go to Ohio, don't we? Or is that at home? I can't remember. Somebody let me know in the comments. But yeah. So anyway, I think Neal would be great for this. I truly do. I think he would be great in this spot. I wouldn't be shocked to see Neal succeed in the MAC with UMass. I would not. And if you're Neal Brown, there's just not many coaches. And this is how I would look at it if I was Neal Brown. If you get fired by West Virginia, I don't know if you are the leading candidate to get the UMass job at that point. But if let's say you just leave West Virginia and it's more mutual, I think that, and then you just go to a place like UMass, it's better. And like you can tell yourself this too. You're still young. You still got a chance to build yourself back up into a Power 5 coach one day. There have been several coaches do this. I would not be surprised that someday to see Neal Brown go back down to a place like UMass and build himself back up to get a job someday at the Power 5 level and maybe even succeed. It's a learning process. It's a journey as we go through life. I personally believe Neal's biggest struggles have been his stubbornness, number one, his unwillingness to change, which is the same, really. It's the same thing. But I think he's stubborn on certain issues and he's not willing to change. And he's got to fire more people, in my opinion, when they need to be fired, not when they have to be fired. And then I wish he would play more freshmen. I wish he wouldn't. And maybe these are things he'll never stop doing. I might be delusional here, but I think, one of the big things, criticism I have of Neal is like he's married to certain players. He just is. Whether it's because they're fifth-year seniors or whether it's because they practice every week really hard. Some coaches just put the best players on the field, and I don't know which is the best answer because I know there's like integrity involved and stuff like that, but I don't know, man. So it would be wild to me to see this happen. But I do think it would be – and here's another thing. I think there's a lot of West Virginia fans that are kind of worried about Neal, like his career. We have a stake in it, whether you're – like we're mad at him now. But raise your hand if you want him to fail in life, because I don't. I don't want Neal to fail. And it would make me happy to see him move on to a situation where he has a chance to fix it. I mean, I would like to see that, I really would. I wish him no ill will. I just love the state of West Virginia and our Mountaineers more. That's just where it's at. Thank you for the 300 of you guys watching. Make sure you like the video, please, before you leave. If you're on X, click over onto YouTube and hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button to Locked On West Virginia. We've gained 900 people, almost 1,000 since October when we joined this thing. That's pretty good. We're almost at 3,000. Help me get there. And share the video if you can. Just hit that share button. Hit share, copy the link, and then just send it over to X, Facebook, anywhere you can. That's the best way to help me grow. I don't want your money. I don't want any cash sent. Just please share the videos out. I'm just trying to be good at this. I'm trying to grow, and the only way I can do that is if you guys like my stuff and agree with my takes for the most part. And look, we can debate, and I'm not afraid to be wrong. So love you guys. Thank you for being here. I've gone over about 5 minutes here, so I would like to stay longer, but got to go. Before we go, want to let everybody know to thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen today. For your second listen, guys, check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Drake Toll leads the conversation in commentary alignment news and pulls no punches when it comes to covering everything in the Big 12. Find Locked On Big 12 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, guys. I think this is a fun topic. Let me know in the comments what you – okay, there's 300 of you watching. Go down below right now and just as we get off here, and let me know a topic that you want to hear about. Your number one topic you most want to see done on West Virginia or on this entire situation or whatever. Let me know down below right now. I'll answer every question. All right, guys. Until then, I'm out.